Hello friends, welcome back to Cramps and Chaos. Before we move on with today's chapter, I have a disclaimer for you. This podcast is for information purposes only, and it's not intended to replace professional medical advice, diagnosis, or treatment. Cramps and Chaos is a platform where people affected by endometriosis can share their stories. These views and experiences are personal and may not reflect those of all individuals living with endometriosis. There aren't any right or wrong answers. Everyone's journey is different. Hey, welcome back to episode 6 of Cramps and Chaos. Today, we're diving into a powerful conversation about endometriosis, pain, and resilience. My guest is Sorrel, an amazing animation director and illustrator whose work focuses on socially engaged projects. She shares her experience with stage 4 endometriosis, from navigating surreal treatment options and long NHS waiting lists, to figuring out how to keep a creative freelance career going while living with a chronic condition such as endometriosis. We talk about advocating for yourself in the medical system, coping with severe brain fog, fatigue, and SIBO, while building boundaries and finding ways to reshape your life around your health without losing your sense of self. It was such a privilege to speak with such a strong and inspiring woman like Sorrel. She has some really great advice, and I really hope this conversation helps anyone dealing with an invisible illness feeling a bit less alone. If you want to continue this conversation, we have a Discord channel where our community connects, shares experiences, and supports each other. And if you enjoy the podcast and you want to keep it running, you can show your support through our Buy Me a Coffee page. Enjoy! Oh, how are you doing? How are you?
I'm good, yeah. I'm not too bad. I'm in a house in Bristol now, which is fun.
Nice. Also, I love your haircut. That's new.
Thank you. I literally got it like a week ago.
Oh, nice.
How are you
How
doing?
you finding? I'm good. Yeah, really warm, but really, really good. Nice to be back in Barcelona after traveling around.
Amazing.
Well, should we start?
I guess so. I've never done a podcast before. I got a bit sidetracked by the issue.
Welcome.
Thank you.
Would you like to introduce yourself?
Yeah, so I'm Sorrel. I'm an animation director and illustrator, and I mostly focus on socially engaged projects. Yeah, and I've got endometriosis.
Which is why we're here talking about endometriosis today. Would you like to start telling us your womb story?
Yeah, so I've had endo for quite a long time, since the beginning of COVID, actually. So 2020. So I had stage 4 endometriosis. And I actually was on the pill for a lot of years. I came off the pill, had a really great 6 months, and then suddenly I got really, really intense endometriosis. And it collided with the beginning of COVID. So it was pretty crazy time. And I had stage 4, and my bowel was involved in that. And I ended up having an operation. So I still have endometriosis, but I'm at a much better point sort of with it than I used to be.
And what treatments were you offered when you were diagnosed with endometriosis?
Oh my God, what treatments? Oh, it was awful. I was well, they said to me, there was a 2-year waiting list for the operation. So they did say quite quickly that, right, you need an operation. But I did still have to wait for, obviously referrals to the gynecology specialists and all that. So during that waiting period, and then during the 2-year wait before the operation also, I was offered, well, first they told me to get pregnant.
That's insane.
Yeah, that was one of the first things that happened. And I was only 23 when I got ill. So they said, you can get pregnant, you can go on the pill. At the time, I really didn't want to go on the pill. And I also didn't want to have a baby. So they said, okay, you've got 3 options. You either go through early menopause, or you get a hysterectomy.
Oh my God.
Yeah. or there was another one, I can't remember. Oh, or have a baby. I can't remember the other one now. But yeah, and in that, or go on the pill. So that was it. They were like, right, if you don't want to go on the pill, you have 2 other options. So basically, it was 3 options: pill, hysterectomy, or early menopause. And
That's
I had to make
insane.
the decision based like on that in the moment in the doctor's appointment,
Yeah,
like
of
it was
course.
any decision in my life. It was so surreal. He just like asked it so really. So I did end up going on the pill.
Mm-hmm.
That was my treatment choice. I think obviously out of the 3, you would go with that, wouldn't you?
Yeah, of course. I mean, it
Yeah,
sounds like the least life-changing.
yeah.
Even if you don't want, like, the same happened to me. Like when I was offered all the same treatments, I was
Hmm.
like, well, I guess I'm gonna take the pill, even if I don't want it, because it
Yeah,
sounds less than the
yeah,
others.
exactly. And the way that they just suggest early menopause and a hysterectomy,
Mm.
like it's like nothing. They were just so casual about it. And they actually didn't even the gynecologist. So it was the guy who was going to do the surgery on me originally, the doctor. But he didn't even tell me originally that it was early menopause medication. He just named the medication as though I would know what that meant.
Oh my god!
It was crazy. I was like, what does that do? You know?
So in that moment, you just decided not to go for that, and then you later found out that that was early menopause medication.
No, I did ask. I questioned it in the moment.
Okay.
Yeah, but when he originally asked, he didn't actually specify what that even was. Yeah, it
Mm-hmm.
was that sort of
Like misinformation, complete misinformation. Also,
yeah.
because like none of these options are like a full cure for endometriosis either. Like a
No,
hysterectomy,
yeah,
it's
not at
not the
all.
solution. Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah, 100%. And I think that was like the message that I was very much given throughout the treatment is that
Mm-hmm.
we can try it. It's always like we can try, isn't it? Yeah, you're there with like, having a really hard time with your quality of life, and they're like, oh, we could try this, but it might come back.
Or in the case
Yeah.
of early menopause, like it has some like life lasting impacts on your body. Like it's not that
Mhm.
obvious that you just go back to it can change your life, your body. And I think the fact that they give it like that easy, it's a bit
Yeah.
worrying.
Yeah, completely.
When things started to get worse after you interrupted the pill, how what symptoms would you experience, and like how did they impact your day to day?
So I started to lose weight quite quickly. That was the first symptom. I'm not gonna lie, at the time I was going to the gym and I was like, wow, I'm so good at this. And then I was like, no, I don't think this is
That's
quite
something
adding
wrong.
up. Yeah. Yeah, I was like, this is this is too much. So I started losing a lot of weight, and I started sex became painful,
Mm-hmm.
and I just started to get aches and pains in that area that I hadn't had before. I mean, it was
Mm-hmm.
actually, I mean, I say aches and pains, but it's more of a like specific sharp pain that I had
Yeah.
on the side, which I knew was where my ovary was.
Uh-huh.
So I ended up going to the doctors quite quickly, because so my sister had stage 4 endometriosis before me. So
Oh
I
yeah, I
think that
remember.
massively, yeah, exactly. So I think that massively helped me in like going quite quickly to the doctors, but also being very sure that I thought I knew what it was quite early on. So I was so lucky that my diagnosis time is shorter than the average, which is obviously
Mm-hmm.
7 years, or it's between 7 and 12 years, isn't it? The
Yeah.
average. And yeah, some people say different things, but yeah. Yeah, mine was quite quick because I went to the doctors, and I'd already spoken to my sister. I was also
Mm-hmm.
nauseous. That was one of the other symptoms. I had some stomach problems going on, and I went to the doctor and I told her that my sister had endometriosis, and I asked for a scan. I was
Mm-hmm.
like, I need a scan. I know what I need. And I think because I was quite definite about it,
Mm-hmm.
they gave me a scan early on. I also told a slight porky and told them that my mum had endometriosis as well, even though it was never confirmed endo, but I just sort of went with it because I knew it was so awfully treated in the NHS, and I was like, I'm not going to be able to get this scan unless they really
Yeah.
believe I have it.
Yeah.
Yeah,
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 especially because it can be genetic genetical.
Exactly, yeah, for sure. And like the fact that my mum never got sort of fully diagnosed doesn't mean that it wasn't that, and like that's not surprising, is it? Like looking at, you know,
Yeah, of course.
yeah,
Especially at different times as well. Like if I look how bad things are now, I can't even imagine like a few years ago how
like when she
things
was
were.
20,
Yeah.
yeah, there's no way she would have got diagnosed. Yeah,
Exactly.
so I went in like sort of knowing that I really needed an ultrasound scan, and luckily I had my sister's knowledge, and I got the scan
Mm-hmm.
quite.
Did she kind of like help you in what to say to make the doctors
Yeah,
listen to you and be quicker in giving
yeah,
you a
for
test?
sure. Yeah, I mean, I think she helped with like putting all the symptoms together. So I think
Mm-hmm.
endometriosis quite often has these random symptoms, doesn't it? And some of them
Yeah.
are so easily brushed off, like especially like nausea, and you know, obviously we're very used to having pain in our bodies and pain in that area. But so she really helped me to be like to sort of culminate all the symptoms and present them all together. And yeah, and also just told me like what you want to push for is an ultrasound scan.
Mm-hmm.
Just like that kind of language, even knowing that that's what I needed, was really helpful.
Exactly. Yeah, especially also like the organizing all your symptoms and giving them almost like it's a package. Because you're right, like you have so many symptoms that sometimes you don't even connect, you don't even realize that they
Yeah,
could be connected to your cycle.
yeah, so often, right? Sometimes like you'd go to the doctors and you know, you'd walk out and be like, oh, I didn't mention that one. And I
So
ended up,
much.
well, I would write my symptoms down and go with a list of them all. And obviously there's
Mm-hmm.
and stuff, isn't there? Which is really helpful. But yeah, in the end,
Yeah.
I would write them all down because I was like, I have to say this and this and this. And
Yeah, I remember when we talked a few months ago, a few weeks ago, we were saying this thing, and I took notes. I never did that before. I took notes, and now I have my doctor's appointment next week, and I'm writing everything down.
oh yeah, do it. So
Yeah.
good. It's actually so handy. And apparently doctors take you more seriously if you do that as well.
Mm-hmm.
I saw a thing about this recently, someone saying that doctors are more likely to take your condition seriously if you have like proof over time of your symptoms, or if you
Yeah.
made a. So it's all double good.
Yeah. Do you have kind of an example of how like a time where your symptoms affected your day to day?
Yeah. So when I was waiting for the operation, so I had about 2 years of being like having really extreme brain fog. So
Mm-hmm.
like that was actually my main symptom. I would get like bad pain as well, but the pain would be like for maybe 3 days a month, and I often like couldn't move at all when I was in that much pain.
Mm.
However, the brain fog and like the fatigue, and I know you and Hannah talked about vertigo, which was another thing.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't even have that language until I actually saw that episode. Um, but yeah, I would get sort of brain fog to the point where sometimes I would pass out, and it was on like a sliding scale, and I would have that for like minimum 2 weeks a month for a couple of years.
Oh my
So
god.
that, I mean, I just couldn't work. I just couldn't do,
Yeah.
yeah, couldn't do anything. I felt so weak. I do remember like just sitting on the sofa looking at the kettle many times and being unable to even
Mm.
make tea. So yeah, it really affected my workload, and especially with freelancing.
Yeah.
Um, it's so hard, yeah, because every now
So
and then a
hard.
job would come in that week or two where I was really on form. But
Mm-hmm.
if it didn't, or something got delayed, or you know, even an email came in that period of time where I just couldn't really do anything. Um, yeah, it would be really hard. It really, really affected my general life and my work. Yeah, a lot.
Yeah, I remember last time we were saying how sometimes you get an email where when you like during that time that you're suffering like really bad brain fog pain, and you end up replying later, and then maybe they reply even later, and by the time they reply you're suffering really bad symptoms again, and it's like really hard to not only like take jobs but like it's hard enough to be a freelancer, and
It's
it's
so
even
hard, isn't
hard. Yeah.
it? Yeah. And then especially when, even if the job happens to land in the 2 weeks that you're well, you're almost then even more ill in the ill weeks, because you're so tired from, you don't have any break
Exactly.
time, not being either ill or working a lot, right? Yeah. And yeah, like, yeah, we spoke about the way that, yeah, you'd email back and then the job would then land on the exact start date, like
Mm-hmm.
period or whatever it was. So yeah.
How do you balance work and endometriosis, especially because you mentioned that you're an animation director, and
Mhm.
I work as an animator. Like it can be very fast paced industry and quite male dominated still.
Yeah.
How do you kind of navigate that?
So during that time period, I was working for other directors a bit, and I've done that less and less over time, because I've found it's just so hard to be able to stick to someone else's schedule, and also consistently make a good impression on in freelance jobs when you could be, yeah, like really ill in the middle of it.
Mm-hmm.
So generally, I direct my own stuff more, and I also started illustrating, which massively helps, I think, for endometriosis, because the sheer workload is a lot less,
Yeah,
um, and then the
true.
time frames are way more flexible. So generally, what I do is I will, let's say a job will take like 3 days, I will
Mm.
carve out 6 days for it, so that I know
Mm-hmm.
that I have a little bit of leeway room, and if I need an afternoon off, that's fine. I've got the next day to do it. So it doesn't really affect anything
That's
other
good.
than me. It's just like, yeah, for sure. It's just like money making that makes life harder. Like overall, you make less money because you're doing, yeah,
Less work.
less jobs. Yeah,
Yeah, yeah,
yeah, less,
yeah, absolutely.
exactly. Yeah.
Have you ever had a moment where you had to advocate for yourself at work? Like before you started getting more jobs in illustration and as director?
Um, I mean, I've had moments on jobs where I've been unable to complete the job because I passed out,
Mm-hmm.
and then not. I mean, not directly been told that that is a problem.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I mean, that was just one day. And I haven't directly been told that that's why I didn't get to carry on working with someone. But I just think, I think that probably had an impact. I think I
Yeah.
was, yeah, I don't know. I think the moment you have a bit of a disability, if you're freelancing, people are like, oh well, that person's a slight issue, or that's not the easiest route that we could go down. Um, yeah, so I think it has impacted jobs in general. I've never been
Mm.
like specifically told that, but I think yeah, I mean, I'm pretty sure it has. Yeah.
No, I agree. Like especially with freelance, you have to, sometimes you don't even get booked that long of a time in like a time frame. It can be just a week, and in that week you have to be 100%. And
Yeah.
you say it's only a day, but for freelance jobs, a day is a long time.
Yeah.
And yeah, you're right. Like I had moments too where I definitely felt maybe that's not why they haven't called me back, but I have no way to be sure that it's not the reason. It's all
Hmm.
very, like in a gray area in terms of how accepted it is to be sick in the end, because that's the thing. Like there's nothing that protects you as a freelancer to be sick.
Yeah, exactly.
Mm.
Yeah, and I do think that you're not the easiest route. You're not the easiest person, and the market's so saturated.
Mm-hmm.
Animation's so saturated that,
Yeah.
yeah, if you have just like a slight issue, it does really feel like you're sidelined.
Yeah.
Um, and that's really difficult, because then you have to get a lot of the work yourself completely independently, and that takes loads of work as well.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a really difficult balance, and I don't think there's a great. I don't think animation is very accessible for
No,
disability.
I agree.
Yeah,
I agree. And I think it has something to do with the amount of workload. Like I think it's crucial what you said about illustration, because it just feels less of a it has less of a weight, like physically, also to do that amount of work. Like animation can be very
Yeah.
long hours. You have to be very fast, you have to be very switched on, and you're right, like the industry is saturated, and I think the option often falls onto people that just don't have a problem, like,
Hmm.
someone that doesn't get sick every month.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I think it's fantastic that you did that you did transition towards more direction and illustration, then where you have to like kind of make your own rules. And yes, it's hard because you have to find clients, but at the same time you don't have to obey to someone else's timelines. And
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, exactly. I've just really learned to like work around my own schedule, and I mean,
mhm,
bringing illustration into the picture was a massive help. Like I love animation, but I don't get to do as much of it nowadays, and I'm absolutely fine with that. I do probably an equal amount of an animation illustration, if not
yeah,
maybe a bit more illustration nowadays, and that's fine. I think that works for my body.
I
Yeah,
understand perfectly.
yeah,
And I remember also, like, previously we talked about the PIP, which is the PIP,
yeah.
the that stands for the personal independence payment.
Yes, exactly. So the fact that I didn't get on this when I was super super ill is crazy, and I
Mm-hmm.
think it so feeds into this idea around was misunderstanding of endometriosis as just a period disease, or it's just
Yeah,
something
absolutely.
and awful. Yeah, I mean, when you talk about endometriosis and people say, oh yeah, I've had a period too, you're just it's so misunderstood, and that directly links to the fact that it's not technically recognized, it's not automatically recognized as a disability in the UK,
Mm-hmm.
which means that I don't think it's as sort of normalized to access support, even if like me, you couldn't work for 2 weeks of each month minimum.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes it was more. So I was making no money. Luckily, I was living on a boat, so I didn't have to pay any rent. But I did have a loan which I was paying off, and yeah, I couldn't make much money at all. And but it was so no one ever told me to access disability benefits. That's technically disability, and you
Yeah,
can't
yeah.
make your daily life is influenced. But yeah, we seem to be underplaying this. So it's something that I really, really advocate for now. Like people with endometriosis can get disability, or you can get blue badge, you can get PIP,
Mm-hmm.
which you can get all of it. Yeah.
How did you kind of get to know about the PIP?
So a friend of mine got it not for endometriosis, actually for a different health condition,
Mm-hmm.
but she, in my brain I was like, oh wow, you're sort of the similar level of disability as me, and a lot less sort of physically impacted, I guess, than I was when
Mm-hmm.
I was really ill. So it made me realize like, oh, I should definitely try this, and
Yeah.
or at least I should have got on it then.
Mm-hmm.
It's kind of mad that no doctors told me to do it, because at one point I was
Exactly.
having, yeah, it's so crazy. At one point I was having like brain scans and stuff, because I was passing out and I had so much of the fatigue. So they
Yeah.
actually thought there was something wrong with my brain, yet still no one told me that I sort of didn't have to, like suffer it quite in this way. That there was some support.
That is insane. And also, like, when you get to the point where you spend half of the month not working, that feels like something that should be offered to you by medical professionals.
Yeah, and they knew
Yeah.
this. I was very much saying this to them. Yeah, yeah. But
Hmm.
it's just endometriosis is so underplayed, isn't it? There is a movement around it at the moment. I think it's definitely being talked about more.
Yeah, I agree, and I'm very happy. Also, like, ever since we talked about the PIP, I heard more and more people online talking about it, And I don't know, maybe there was more talk about it before and that I didn't know what it was, or I don't know how it works. But I think it's amazing that more and more people are at least know about what it is and the fact that you can get support.
I mean, it's a funny one. Like they say, there's no sort of one disability register in the UK. So the idea of something registering as a disability is a bit of a funny idea. But endometriosis, you sort of have to like prove that it's disability worthy in the UK, which which is kind of mad, which is kind of really like on top of everything else that you have to do with it, you also have to go and prove this. And even if you are talking to your doctor and showing them that your quality of life's being massively impacted, they don't necessarily tell you that you can access any of it. I mean, like even now I can't I don't really cycle. I find cycling raises my heart rate too much, and I'll just get fatigued and I'll get loads of pain. So I use the buses and trains probably a lot more than the average person, and that's a mobility problem, right? Like there's passes for that.
Exactly.
But like no one ever told me that. I actually had a recent conversation with a friend who has a pass for trains because they need that, and I was the fact that we're not told this, I really do think that it's because it's a women's health issue.
Yeah, I was gonna ask you like after that, if you think there's like a gender bias in how endometriosis is like treated or like better, like unrecognized.
Yeah, I mean so much. I think we're so I think because it links to period, having like being on a period, even though it's not technically that related, but everyone sees it as a period disease. And also just women, you're so expected to be in pain. They're so expected to be in pain, aren't they? I mean, my little sister was had some health issues going on, and she went to get a scan, and I told her, I tried to do the same thing as my big sister did. I said, go get a scan, go get an ultrasound, and it might be endometriosis. She did it, and during that, the ultrasound technician asked her, why she was there. She said because sex was painful, and he said that's normal for women. That's very normal.
Oh
sex
my god!
For women.
Oh my god! You literally want to like disappear in that moment, like
Awful,
magician
right?
style.
Yeah. I think women's pain is just normalized. That we're expected to have periods, and just carry on. We're then also expected to have other pain and just carry on. And I do think it's specific to women's health. I can't imagine if if a guy had a condition where he couldn't work for 2 weeks of the month, it would just be sort of put under the rug and be like, cool, just wait. You're not going to have any help, but you might have an operation in 2 years. I just don't know if that would happen if it was this many people.
No, and also it makes me think of what you told me that you I don't know if you want to talk about that, but what you've been going through with putting the coil in, and how do you want to tell me? Do you want to tell us?
Yeah, so I actually more recently have decided that I want to go on the coil instead of the pill, because I've been on the pill for quite a few years now, and it's been working annoyingly well. I mean, great, but I don't want to be a pill advocate. But yeah, it has been working really well for my endo. But I've been on it for so long, and I know there are some long-term effects. So I want to try the coil. I've heard also really good for endo. So I went to my GP and said I wanted to go on the coil, and they said that they were not allowed to do that, which is not necessarily true. Like there's not a rule around that. They just said that they wouldn't do that because I was put on the pill by a specialist, by someone at the hospital. So they said they're not going to do it. So firstly, I wasn't even allowed.
Yeah.
Which is kind of crazy. Like,
oh
what?
My God. Yeah.
Like, that's kind of mad. Like, okay, so I can't choose my own
my own fate, like my own treatment. Yeah.
Yeah. So then I went in to see the specialist.
The same one.
Yeah. So no, this is a different specialist. So this is a new specialist. So actually quite a lot, I think, better than some of the other ones I've seen. But I went in to see him, and after I asked for the coil, I said I wanted to be sedated or some kind of pain, some kind of pain management. And he was really surprised, and he was sort of like, why?
Oh,
being a bit like, oh, it's fine, you won't even feel it, it's quick, kind of thing. And and I was like, no, that I had stage 4 endo. It was really bad. I know this kind of pain. I'm not going to do this to myself. So he accepted that, and he was like, cool, we'll get you under like sedation. So not general, like I would just be sort of high. I'd be out of it, but I wouldn't sleep. So that was about 4 months ago, and I still haven't got it. So I'm still waiting.
That, like, did they give you an update on how long you're gonna have to wait, or
nothing? Absolutely nothing. Just because I wanted pain management, for a coil, which every woman should be offered anyway.
Yeah, exactly. That's the thing, because I've been talking more and more about this, and it's painful. Like, it can be very painful to have the coil placed, and starting from the fact that every woman should have that option to do it with sedation. But I think it just reflects so well how women are just expected to experience pain, and when you don't want that, you're kind of looked like, oh, you're being fussy, like, what about when you're gonna have a baby, and that's gonna be real painful. It's like, oh my god. So because that's the standard, we should just like everything should be painful.
Deal with that. We should deal with everything else. Yeah. But they have linked endo pain to heart attack, haven't they? They said that, endometriosis pain is as bad as a heart attack, and they've also sort of, like, was it maybe a study, or was it just a general thing that was coming out that women who'd had endo were had a higher pain threshold in terms of when they were giving birth, because the pain is so high, and like you just have to normalize it. But I couldn't believe. You'd think that after all of that you'd be offered it. I mean, anyone should be offered it, but especially if you had problems in that area that I did,
exactly,
that you would just do that without anything is quite bizarre.
And especially because, like, I don't know if you want to share that or not, but like because I think you take the progesterone pill, right?
Yeah.
And I've been on that for a few years, and I just interrupted it, and I think I ended up like having to stop, for me in my case, but like I completely lost my libido. Like, it changed my life, like the colors of my life completely. And I think, like, the wait shouldn't just be that long for a change, like for getting, because in the end it's not just like getting the coil in, it's just that you have to start a new treatment.
Oh yeah, it's a whole new 4 month figuring out your hormones. Also, you stay on the pill for the first 6 weeks as well. So even once you get the coil, for me, I was told to stay on the pill so that I had an overlap, so that my endo had less chance of coming back. So it's a really long treatment option, and I know that the coil takes quite a long time to settle in, doesn't it? They say to do it a year, which is a really, really long time. And and even that, like, I remember when I first asked for it, I assumed it would be within the month, I think if you want a coil and you just get it sort of done in a normal way, then it's quite quick. You can get it within a couple of weeks. So I was like, okay, maybe a month. And I actually lined up work to have a little gap, because I thought that I'd probably get the coil in there and then I'd need some time to recover. So it's like it's this circle, isn't it? Even getting treatment, I've found, is like massively interrupting work and just general life. It's crazy that I've got to wait this long, and the progesterone pill is a really funny one. And yeah, as you said, like I've had the same thing with libido. It's massively impacted my libido. Like I've just got no libido, and yeah.
Yeah, I know. It's just really tough. Like again, I think it's something that it's normalized with the effects of the pill, because it seems to be quite like a recurring effect. And sometimes it just angers me because it's just how can it be normalized for a person to live without libido? And
Oh
how
yeah.
could it be, so, it's not a big thing. It's a massive thing.
Yeah, it's a massive thing, and it's so hypocritical because I'm like we're currently expected to live without or with much less libido for treatment of endometriosis. However, one of the reasons why one of the things that helped me actually get the operation in the beginning was the fact that I wasn't able to have sex. So there was a couple of appointments. I'd noticed that the surgeons, generally when I was chatting to them, they would care way more about my quality of sex life than any of the other symptoms I was giving.
No way.
So, yeah, like a lot more. So I would say, because they were all men, I didn't have any female specialists that I spoke to. And I would say, okay, so I can't work for like 2 to 3 weeks a month, and I've got the brain fog, and I've got extreme pain, and I had a lot of stomach issues as well. I had my endometriosis caused SIBO, which is small intestinal bacterial overgrowth, as well. So I had that too. Yeah, and so I was saying all these symptoms, and they'd be like, right, and how's how sexually active are you? And I'd be like, yeah, that's obviously not really
not great.
but it's not my main priority right now. Like I can't get off the sofa, let alone do that. And sometimes I would be in the room with my partner Matt, and in that moment, it happened twice. In that moment, the doctor would look and ask and check that with Matt. At one time, the doctor looked over to Matt and asked, "How is that for you?" To him.
No.
About me not being able to have sex.
No.
Yeah. So it's crazy because
Are you kidding?
He thought, yeah, no, for sure.
Oh my God.
I'm laughing because it's awful, but yeah, he was like,
awful.
yeah, how's that for you? And Matt was really
awful.
shocked. He was like,
yeah,
what do I say? Did not expect to be asked that. Very
that
weird.
is shocking.
But I realized that so then I was like, okay, if they think that this is a massive problem for me, because at the time it was not a massive issue. It was sort of the least of my worries, really.
Yeah, of course.
But I was like, okay, cool, yeah, sex is, I can't do it, and that's one of the main symptoms I'm now going to tell you. And
yeah, because you seem
they
interested.
took that way more seriously than anything else I was saying, because they could relate to it. That's what it felt. It really changed. Like it really, they took it way seriously.
Yeah, but it makes sense.
Yeah, which is so.
It doesn't make sense, but like it makes sense that they can relate to that particular thing, and then they take it more seriously. But everything else, they
were like, oh, we don't get that. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
They could relate to the quality of life stuff, but they can completely relate to not being able to have sex, and that for them was much more important, which is so hypocritical, because now they're saying to me, oh, that's, you can just live with that, that's fine.
Yeah, exactly. It's so it's so like going in the opposite direction of it's okay when the treatment is causing that, and it's not that important because you could, but you just don't have the drive to do it.
Exactly. Yeah. You're still a functioning woman. Like you're still, you're still, you're just not that bothered. Whereas, you can't have sex. And I think also think the whole having babies thing, the fact that the first thing they say to you is well, have a baby.
Man,
It can
and that is so common, but you were so young when they told you that. Like you were 23 years old. Like,
yeah. Even recently, I went to the appointment where I asked for the coil. They were, the guy, he was actually probably one of the best specialists I'd ever spoken to in terms of the general appointment. The other things he said, he actually said some really good stuff about women's health. But at the same time, saying that is crazy, because actually he spent half the appointment telling me that I needed to have a baby ASAP. And I had to really be like, I don't want to have a baby. Yet still, even though he did that, he's still one of the better ones that I've seen. I just think it sort of reflects the lack of awareness in that area.
Yeah, same. I really love my doctor. I really think he's one of the best, like my recent one. But my heart dropped when the last time he told me this, because I was like, no, oh my God. I couldn't look at him the same way that I always did, because that's something that they tell you so much, and it's not even that true. Like the whole having a baby is going to cure your endometriosis, and you do
Yeah.
end up as a patient questioning your doctor, because you're like, I don't know, it's a very life-changing proposition that you're making, and it's for something that we're not even that sure that women feel that much better after having a baby.
Yeah, no, for sure, right? Like some women just have a baby and then they get endometriosis back. Then you've
Yeah.
got a baby and endometriosis,
Yeah.
which is much harder. Like
Yeah,
that double hard.
exactly.
That's
Exactly.
that would be really awful. And I think it comes from a bit of an idea that I do think that a lot of these people are still assuming that all women must want children. I think it comes from that,
Yeah.
right? Half of it's like, okay, have a baby for your treatment. And then half of it's like, no, have a baby because you're a woman and that's what you want, right? And that's what you should
Yeah.
do.
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly.
It's like there's such a time limit on it. Such a time limit on it.
Yeah, exactly. And also, it's very complicated, because you're saying that to someone, we all know that endometriosis can affect fertility, and you're saying that to someone that whose fertility could be affected by their endometriosis.
Mm-hmm.
So for me, that feels like out of touch with reality to say to a patient something like that without even being sure that that person can have children. Or, like you said earlier, like have a baby, it's going to make you feel better when you have endometriosis and a baby, because it's something that also it's not talked about, motherhood while suffering endometriosis.
Yeah.
um that's another massive topic. And I
Mm-hmm.
think I wish there was a bit more thinking and empathy with these kind of, how some medical professionals treat you, and also like misconception about endometriosis that even
Mm-hmm.
doctors have. I was actually about to ask you, like, what did you notice is the most common misconception that people have about endometriosis?
It's just a bad period, for
Mm,
sure. So
yeah.
many people think that they know what it is.
Mm-mm.
Like the amount of times someone said, "Oh, that's a period disease." And even the fact that it links to period means that quite often people, especially men, if it's at work, for example, they're like, oh, I don't want to talk about that.
Oh,
They
yeah,
sort of do,
yeah, true.
yeah, they sort of get, oh. Yeah, I think probably that it's a period disease. And also the only symptom is pain. Because
Yeah.
even when I used to like use so many resources on Instagram. Like Instagram was really where I found my community. And another, I actually wrote it down because it was really good name, Stuff That Works. I don't know if you've heard of it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's that
I think
community.
so.
Yeah, the online community, and you have all these different conditions within it. So I used to use that a lot. And even across those two platforms, back when I was suffering like a lot, was no one ever really talked about brain fog. And no
Mm.
one really talked about the research around hormones wasn't there. There was a lot of
Mm-hmm.
symptoms. Stomach symptoms weren't quite there either. There was a lot of things that people didn't talk about. I think the pain, as much as the pain is awful, the
Yeah.
pain is kind of one of the things that I found the easiest to talk about. The other things I found much harder to talk
Yeah.
about, and were like, yeah, much, I don't know, less spoken about in general by everyone, I think.
Yeah, because I think, especially because they're not like, people don't really connect them with endometriosis. So, but also I remember we said this last time, how saying things like brain fog or fatigue. Sometimes, the kind of fatigue that you expressed earlier, or like the brain fog that you expressed earlier, like it almost feels like the term itself, it's not good enough. It's not even strong enough to describe that kind of the intensity of the symptoms. I remember last time you said how you say intense fatigue, because you kind of have
Mhm.
to put an accent on the fact that it's really intense and it disrupts your day to day.
Yeah, 100%. It's like I'd say, yeah, intense fatigue or extreme fatigue, because I
Yeah,
didn't actually have like, what is fatigue to the point where you pass out? Like, is that even a thing?
exactly.
Like, that seems to be quite specific
Mm-hmm.
to sort of endometriosis, maybe MS, all that kind of, yeah, like maybe diabetes and things like that. It's quite a specific, it's quite a specific thing, and I don't know if it's necessarily even like can be explained by the word fatigue. I remember
Mm-hmm.
the first time I heard the phrase people using spoons. Do you know the spoons thing? So it's like,
Spoons.
yeah, so it's a way of
Oh,
like, yeah, it's a way of like figuring out your own sort of fatigue and energy levels
oh
in the
yeah,
day.
yeah.
Yeah, and you'd have like 5 spoons for the day. And I remember being like, oh, these people get it. Okay, we're working in spoons here.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but yeah, it does feel like some of the words to explain it, I don't know, they're not like necessarily medical words, and there's a disconnect there. And um
Yeah, exactly.
yeah, like what is really
Mm-mm.
going on with your own body, it's really hard to tell. So yeah, I say extreme fatigue slash brain fog, but I do think that even that sort of underplays it.
Yeah,
And some of the effects
totally.
people don't realize. So sometimes I'll say like, okay, I'm having a fatigue day, I'm having a brain fog day, and then
Mm.
I'll be with someone, and we'll go out, we'll try and go out and do something, and they'll be walking like ahead of me. And I'm like, no, like the actual direct impact of this is that I have to walk pretty slowly everywhere. Otherwise
Yeah.
we'll have to go home. Otherwise I'll have to sleep, right? And like
Mm.
yeah, I think it's just misunderstood for sure.
Yeah, exactly. It's misunderstood how much of like the effect of that stops you from living a normal life.
Hmm.
Like it's not that you're fatigued, but you can still go out and do the same things that you would do normally, but you're just doing them while being fatigued. Is the actual fatigue is stopping you from doing what you would normally go out and do, or like the way you would normally go out and do.
Yeah, exactly. Like,
um
either I don't do it, or I can do it, but I do it really slow. I mean, I used to do
exactly.
like, and still sometimes do like, if I have a meeting, like a half an hour work meeting or something, and I'm in a bad period, then
Mm.
I'm like, okay, I've got my Globin, I've got my dark chocolate, and I've got some salmon randomly because it's oily fish. And
Yeah.
I'd be like, okay, I'm going to eat the salmon, I'm going to eat the dark chocolate, I'm going to couple Globin for my iron and my
Mm.
B12. And I would have this half an hour window where I would feel just about awake enough to do a good meeting. And then
Mm-hmm.
and then that was it. And that's it for the day. But it's like, yeah, I didn't think.
But it's so much thinking goes behind something that I think that's really hard. Like how invisible endometriosis is part of it is this, like the not knowing not only what causes it and how, but also these little like everyday things that you have to calculate. You have to um you there's so much planning that you can do around your cycle, and sometimes you just have to do things anyway.
Yeah,
And in order to do those things, you have to put yourself in the best position possible for
yeah, exactly. You have to
for
be so ready. Like yeah,
exactly.
yeah. The mental load for like this meeting is bigger than someone else. And then, so then that adds to the overall fatigue, I guess. In the
Exactly.
And the fact that the physical sign of endometriosis is like the big, I mean, distension is the actual word, isn't it? But essentially bloating, like extreme bloating,
Mm.
which makes
Mm-hmm.
you look pregnant, which I had
Mm-mm.
really badly, and I remember I had so much shame about around that symptom. But yeah, it's funny, is like going to the doctors with endometriosis, and one of your symptoms is your extreme bloat, and then they're telling you to get pregnant.
Yeah.
It's such a bizarre,
Yeah.
yeah,
It's
bizarre
just
thing.
so it's such a strange loophole of like a lack of depth of how disruptive the symptoms are
Mm-hmm.
as well. I actually had a question earlier that I wanted to ask when we were talking about invisible disabilities, and that would be if you could like change society. Sorry, I
No
had it.
worries. You've actually frozen on my screen, so I'm just pretending to look at you,
That's
but I
okay.
can't see you.
Yeah, we talked about how Indo is often invisible and misunderstood. And how would you change society views on endometriosis and other invisible illnesses?
I mean, I think in terms of women's health, I think it stems from a lack of care around women's pain in general and a lack of study around it. Like, I think that if we had better laws around, better laws and rights and time off from work and all this around periods, if we normalize periods less, then we're going to automatically normalize women's health issues less. Also, I think it comes from an inherent normalization of women just being in pain, and they should just carry on. So I think that's definitely the way forward. I know that Portugal has just brought in, is it 2 or 3 days a month for people with endometriosis? Yeah. And Edenise, I can never remember how to say it, the other condition. Do you know it?
Adenomyosis?
Yes.
The one, oh yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, I've only ever read it, not but yeah. For those two conditions, like, you get time off work every month. And I think that, normalizing that kind of thing in the UK would be a massive step forward. I think they should bring that in. They should definitely bring that in for health conditions like endometriosis. However, I also think that it should be brought in, normalized more, to have days off for being on your period as well. Because as we know, if the waiting list to get diagnosed for endos is around 10 years, then what does that mean?
I agree.
Like, what, you only get time off when you've got the diagnosis? Like, seems a bit.
You're right. Like, it shouldn't be just people with endo and adeno. It should be people that need those days off.
Exactly, yeah.
Because of the period, because they might not know yet that they have endometriosis.
Yeah, because you can have endometriosis, and if you have the cysts, if you have endometrial cysts, then it's easier to diagnose. But if you don't, if you only have lesions, they can't necessarily see into a laparoscopy, can they?
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. For sure. And my endometriosis caused some other things. I think when we see diagrams of endometriosis, all your organs are so far away from each other. But it's not true. Everything's really close. And with endo, right? And with endo, your everything's swollen, so it's even more close. And because of my cysts, my whole uterus ended up twisting, and my endometriosis ended up on my bowel at the back. And I remember that pain. I remember it was a big few days of really crazy pain. And I didn't go to the hospital because the pain at that point had been so normalized. And the next time I went for a scan, they realized that my uterus had twisted around. So there's other things that can sort of happen because of endo. It's like, endo's almost at the beginning, isn't it? Because you also get a lot of stomach issues with endo, and it sort of can cause other diseases.
Yeah, exactly. It's associated with autoimmune diseases. It can cause stomach issues, bladder issues, bowel issues, and what you said, also like the frozen pelvis. I think that when like all your pelvis organs are like stuck together, it's like it's so much more than just a period condition. And I also wanted to ask you, like, what did you feel like you had to give up, or that you have lost things in life because of your endo?
I feel like I lost some friendships at the beginning because I became essentially flaky, which I just have to be now, and that's fine. But I there was some people that just couldn't understand, not necessarily me maybe having to bail because I was in too much pain.
I get that.
So that was a real shame. I lost some friendships, and there was some times I tried to join some, do some hobbies and join some groups and things like that when I was still quite fatigued. And I think that was massively affected. I don't think I could show sort of my full personality, and I couldn't, I didn't have much to say for a long time. And then I lost jobs for sure. I've had a handful of jobs that have emailed me when I'm in a flare, and then when I've eventually got back to them, even if it was only 3-4 days later, they're like, oh, it's gone now. So yeah, I mean, a lot that has happened quite a lot. I think,
yeah, it moves so fast. Like even 2 days, it's just the job is gone and there's nothing is waiting. And I can definitely I can relate to the losing friends as well. Have you found any like kind of coping mechanisms for this moment, for moments where you're feeling like you're like grieving your life, or like your life before, or like the emotional tolls of endometriosis?
So I was actually thinking about this earlier today. I was on a walk, and I was thinking about, because I was thinking about this podcast and prepping for it a bit, and I was feeling a bit sorry for myself about how hard life had gone, and how I didn't quite I didn't give myself maybe the grace I should have given myself in that time. I think talking to people as much as you possibly can about your health condition was one of the biggest turning points for me, though. Definitely for the first sort of 6 months, I was just totally on my own with it. I didn't talk to many people about it. Didn't really have much language of how to explain it. My partner just looked after me the whole time. And then once I sort of started using support groups mostly on Instagram, I started having this language to use, and then I started talking to people about it. Then the moment I was showing my experience, especially showing being fatigued, because I've being that fatigued and that brain foggy is very vulnerable, isn't it? You are in a super vulnerable state. If you go out somewhere, you can't necessarily get yourself home, or if someone asks you,
exactly,
you might just not be able to answer. And I guess just spending time with friends that I really trusted, who was mostly my boat crew at the time, and being vulnerable in front of them, being maybe ill in front of them a little bit, and being like, it's okay, I don't have to be my best self, I can be my ill self. Just taking that idea out that I had to sort of live up to my past self really helped, really helped. And spending time with people in a way that was accessible to me, for sure. So rather than going with plans, rather than just going with plans, people were like, let's go to the pub on Saturday, and I'd be there like, okay, I'm going to go for 1 hour. I'm going to have to get Matt with me so I can make sure that I don't get too ill and all this stuff. Actually, no, I'd ask another friend if they wanted to watch a movie with me, and then I'd be doing something really lovely, but it would be within my what I could do. So
your range of possibilities.
Really like not being embarrassed essentially about the condition.
I think it really helps. And and also like there's always this sense of like guilt, or you have to please people and you have to do things anyway, that I think once you get rid of that and you finally say, okay, well, like not today, and today I just need to do something that I can, because otherwise I'm gonna go out and feel ill. I think that is just a nice moment of like finally building your own boundaries, I guess.
For sure. Yeah. And I think because it's so misunderstood, it's so easy to punish yourself when you've got endometriosis. It's like you don't even realize you're doing it. It's like, okay, I'm gonna try and live up to other people's like wants and needs, and if I can't, then I'm gonna punish myself. Or if I wake up feeling fatigued, I'm so rubbish, I can't do this day of animation I really need to do. And that, just stripping that back and trying to be like the kindest version of yourself to yourself is so important. Because now you're already so being punished by this condition. You don't need to add to it.
Exactly.
Like you should be your biggest kindness, like so kind to yourself. And
yes.
that really helps, and it lowers your stress around it as well. You're much more likely to get better if you're kind to yourself for a few days.
Exactly. But what you said about the communication, like learning terms and learning how to communicate what you're actually going through, that also is so important. Because I remember when I learned what a flare up, like, because I never used the word flare up, like it was not in my vocabulary. Now I just know that when that happens, there's a consequence in like how I have to live my life. But you're so right in terms of learning like words and that can help you describe what you're going through. Even just for you, it's so important. That's why the fact that endometriosis has to be more visible, because I think this whole isolation comes from the fact that because there's not enough conversation around it, people don't even know how to communicate on it, like about endometriosis.
Yeah, even when we met, we were using the word brain fog, fatigue, and vertigo, all sort of, all sort of with each other, and they're all slightly different, but we all had experienced all of it. And I hadn't even had the word vertigo until I listened to that episode with Hannah, and I remember when I was talking to my counselor about the sort of fatigue and brain fog, and she has diabetes, and she said, "Oh, that sounds like hypo," and that was a crazy moment, because it is actually all linked to blood, your blood sugar levels and B12 levels and all these other elements, and it was and that was really interesting because it's a different condition, but just talking to people about things, because often the amount of times that someone else will be hiding maybe the same or a similar condition to you, and it's invisible, so they haven't told you and they don't know how to use the language, and you start talking and someone goes, "Oh, I've got that too," and
which is a bit part of, it makes me think also like the physical impacts of endometriosis, but also the psychological ones. Like I feel that's also something that isn't really talked about, but I don't feel like it's that allowed sometimes, because that pain can be very, very difficult to something to share like with others.
Yeah, for sure. I think it's super scary. Endometriosis is really, really scary, right? And I think sometimes on day one of a flare up, you're really terrified about the what's going to come. It's super scary, and that is, I don't think I'm ever going to necessarily get used to that feeling, because it's a really scary thing, and we definitely just need more support, for sure.
Yeah, and also like, when you panic, I have to say, I do the same. Like every time it feels like I'm having a flare up for the first time in my life, and I cry and I'm like, oh my god, like what should I do? Should I call the doctor? Should I go to the hospital? And then I have to calm myself down and be like, okay, we went through this before. Like definitely go to the doctor. I'm not saying don't go, but you always, it's very stressful, because it happens again and again and again. That's not going to be the last time.
No, not at all.
Yeah.
No, not at all. And I think we're so taught to not go to the doctors, aren't we? We're so taught to not go to doctors and not go to the hospital, and
massively,
because this is just a period disease, and it's just where you have to deal with it. There's nothing to do for 2 years. And I think I have a suspicion that if I'd gone to the doctors, and especially the hospital more, maybe a bit quicker. But that operation, but then it's just so difficult, because you are your energy's so low already. So how are you meant to spend that much time doing that? Just going to the hospital with so much effort. So yeah.
Definitely.
Having more just general disability rights, and maybe PIP and whatever you can get would help with, I think, that your general healthcare. Because all of a sudden you've got way more to do, especially when you're actively trying to seek an operation or some kind of treatment. Your to-do list in your day is like 10 things long, but you've only got sort of spoons worth of energy to do all of them in. So it's really difficult, and there's a lot of I think the sort of psychological impact is the fear and the stress of knowing, okay, what am I going to do? Because I can't actually choose everything, and that in itself is quite a lot to mentally figure out each day. Like, what am I going to be able to do? and like, where's my capacity? Because you're often guessing capacity, right? Because once it's too late, it's too fucking late.
It's too late. Yeah,
too late, and it's really hard to know sometimes. You know, can I go on that walk? Can I not go on that walk? Like, what? It's just really hard to figure out.
Yeah. And you know, when you do go on that walk and you start feeling unwell, it's not exactly like, it can be dangerous, it can be scary.
Yeah.
Because, you know, you do find yourself in very uncomfortable situations, dangerous situations, where you're like around, out and about, and you shouldn't be. You should be at home lying down, and, you know, you may be like fainting or you can't walk. So I think, you know, you're constantly thinking about like the, you know, your pint of energy. You know, can I do that? And also, if I stress myself too much, if I overwork myself, what's going to be the consequence of that? Which is, you know,
it can be very lonely.
Yeah.
Like, I think the result of that is you can be super lonely, because if you're not going through a flare up, realistically, if you've got some days of work or you've got some big plans, then you're going to make time either side on your own, because you're assuming that you might get ill. So then actually you end up maybe being on your own more than you would normally. And then if you're ill, then you're often on your own a lot. So I think it does, it makes you generally a little bit more lonely.
Yeah. Yeah. And I wanted to ask you, what advice would you give to someone that might be going through what you have?
I think, if advice-wise, like, it's so difficult. So difficult to know what advice to give, because I feel like I've got loads.
I know it can be tricky.
I think, like, be your biggest like advocate in terms of going to the doctors, and when you're actually talking to people about your condition, don't let them only give you 5 minutes of your 10-minute appointment. It's so hard because you feel so weak and so tired and fatigued, but you've been through that much pain. Like, you're clearly really strong. I think that's something to and sadly, at this point, it feels like we still have to like really, really advocate for ourselves. I think when you first get ill, writing your symptoms down and pushing for an ultrasound or an MRI is really helpful. Really, really helpful. And also, do not believe everything the GP says. Because half the time, they're just wrong.
Yeah.
They actually are. And when you're at a point like we are, where you've had it for so long, sometimes GPs say to you, and it's actually wrong. And I'm just like, well, I'm just so this doesn't actually matter to me. But just, if you can get that scan and get onto the gynecology list at the hospital, get in there, and they really will help. Yeah.
Yeah. And, you know, once you get a diagnosis with a specialist, or like, trust that, and like, don't trust the GP that says, oh, I don't think you have endometriosis.
Exactly. Yeah.
Because that happens.
Sound like fatigue. That's not normal with endometriosis. Yeah, I've heard that.
Yeah. Oh, it happened to you?
Yeah, they said that once, and then actually more recently I went in because I had some stomach issues back. I thought I had my SIBO back, and I'd explained that I was diagnosed by 2 different gastroenterologists at the hospital with SIBO, and the woman, the GP said she didn't think that was likely that I had it, because it doesn't normally link up with endometriosis, she said. I was just like, you're wrong. That's just wrong.
Just wrong.
Like, that's just wrong. I was diagnosed twice at the hospital. Like, I definitely have it, you know? So I think it's just taking some of that stuff with a pinch of salt, and like, you do actually know your own body. You actually do.
Yeah.
You do,
trust yourself.
100%. Yeah.
Yeah, I agree. That's also an advice I would give my younger self. Just trust yourself. Like, do not trust people that say that you're fine if you're not feeling fine.
Oh no, 100%. No way.
100%.
Yeah.
And instead, like, looking ahead, what is next for you? Like, what's your hopes and plans and goals?
Well, I want to make art about endometriosis. This is my goal, because it's something I haven't managed to do much of. I've done a little bit, some paintings and things, And I've used endometriosis to inform a lot of my work. A lot of the time I'm doing work about conditions. One of them was Crohn's and actually I made a film about Crohn's and colitis at one point. So a lot of it is sort of informed by my experience with endo, and helped, by that, by the knowledge of that. However, I've not been able to make something about it yet because I've been too ill. So now I feel like I've got a bit of time and I've got a bit of energy to make some work about it, and I really want to do that. So that's amazing. That's what's coming for me, and the coil, I guess, at some point, and we'll see how good for endo that is. That'll be interesting.
Yes. You have to keep me updated on that, and if you need an animator,
oh, I know. We can have a full endo team, and there's going to be just have days off.
Dream team.
Constant 20-minute nap breaks. Everyone gets free chocolate and Fearglobin. It's gonna be great.
Oh, it sounds amazing. It sounds ideal. I was also curious. What's your hope in terms of what do you hope listeners can take away from hearing your story?
I hope that people, if they're suffering, they go, "Oh, I think I've got that, and I can, get an operational meds, and I can get help for it." I think that's what I hope, and people feel less alone in their struggle and their symptoms, for sure. For sure, yeah.
And it will.
Yeah.
I loved talking to you, like always, even when we met in London. Like it was I think it's so great to hear you talk, because you went through so much, and you still, like, you're so strong, and you advocate for yourself so much, and you have so much advice to give, like the writing the symptoms. That's a God-given.
Yeah, thank you. You too. Like, I feel like when we met, we just had such similar experiences, like, straight away. And I just think this is a fantastic platform, and it's just, I'm really, really glad that you're doing this. Like, we so need it. It's amazing. Yeah,
I'm happy that you accepted to talk on the podcast. It's been very exciting. But I have one last question, which is, how do you imagine your endometriosis?
How do I imagine it?
Yeah, if you had to describe it.
I often think it's like a heavy blanket, like a really heavy blanket that I carry around. And my friend used to call it my triplets, which was which was like, would feel like on the nose in terms of the pregnancy thing, but I quite liked it. It made it, when I had, because I had 3 ovarian cysts, so I used to hold my belly. It made me look after myself a bit more, putting a sort of almost personifying these cysts and this thing. It made me hold my belly in this way.
I love that.
And carry it and take care of it. So I think I've got 2 sides. One's like this heavy blanket, and the other one is something that I look after, that I can hug and give love. Yeah. Like,
I love that.
What about you?
Oh God, I don't know. I was not expecting.
Sorry. Cool.
I think I don't know, but I always kind of something red that just spreads around and burns. Like, I imagine it like, when you're watching those action movies and you have like the exposed skin, like the underskin, and it's like raw and red and bloody. I imagine it like that, and I imagine it just like wrapping my inside organs and just like spreading around. So it spreads up your chest when you have anxiety, or like the fatigue that we talked about when you can't breathe properly. I imagine it just like slowly like spreading like the sun, but not so nice and warm, more like burning.
I get that. That's a very good explanation of it. Yeah. I know what you mean. Thank you so much for having me. This was so fun.
Thank you so much for being here and for sharing your story. I think hearing you talk, like I said, you're very strong and you're an amazing woman, and you're
you have an incredible story, and I'm just very happy that people can listen to it and be inspired and feel less lonely.
Yeah, that's what I want. Feel less lonely. Thank you. This has been really lush.
Thank you.
Thanks so much for listening. I hope Sorrel's story gave you some insight, encouragement, or just a reminder that you're not alone. And until next time, take care through these very difficult times.